Actually, timeout, y'all. Timeout. This ult sucks.
Hi everyone, I'm Q Fang,
Hey, Q Fang.
lead concept artist on the Overwatch team. Our newest tank hero, RAMATTRA, is our first tempo tank, with the ability to change states moment to moment, embodying two forms, Omnic and Nemesis form.
I think technically Ball was the first tempo tank, but yeah, I get the intention.
Show me what you've got.
That seems to be the... So here's the thing, is this is clearly a marketing move to be the first tempo tank. It's like meant to grab attention and eyes on the new hero and the new game. It's clearly a marketing move. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It does describe the hero well, but it's done for a reason.
When in Omnic form, RAMATTRA fights using his Void Accelerator staff. Its primary fire shoots out a stream of nanites in a fixed pattern, dealing steady damage. This ability has slow travel time, but no damage fall off. It's great as a poking tool, plus it does increase damage.
Ooh, that's a lot of damage. That is a lot of damage. I wonder how hard it's going to be able to aim, because even the body shot damage was pretty high.
In a fixed pattern, dealing steady damage. This ability has slow travel.
Like that right there is a lot of damage. That is a charged up Zarya damage, but with no fall off. So I'm curious to see what the hitbox is compared to a Zarya beam, because it already looks stronger than a Zarya beam at like 20-30 charge. I would have to know the numbers. My gut says this is like Zarya beam at like 40 charge or 30 charge, maybe not quite that much, but it can also headshot, and it also has no fall off. So
Travel time, but no damage fall off. It's great as a poking tool.
And it also has no spread. That's a good point.
Plus, it does increase damage if you hit headshots. The secondary ability.
Like, obviously, nobody's going to hit all headshots like that. But the fact that it can hit headshots and has infinite range.
While in Omnic form, creates a barrier at a targeted location.
That is a strong barrier.
This barrier has a lot of health, but it only lasts briefly. So it's meant to be used tactically to close the distance as you poke.
900? Is that it?
But it only lasts briefly.
1,000?
So it's meant to be used tactically to close the distance as you...
Yeah, it's 1,000. I don't know. I talked about this. Like, you guys can see it right here. 15-second cooldown. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't know why, but my gut says I would like this to be like a 10-second cooldown and like 300 HP, or an 8-second cooldown and like 200 HP. I don't like having... I don't know. Maybe that's better, so it's not so like... I don't want him to feel like Sigma exactly, so I understand that, but I don't know. I feel like 8 seconds is a long enough time to offer more dynamics without making him feel like a Sigma clone. I don't know. I don't mind if he can't recall it. I just feel like it should be like a shorter cooldown with a smaller... Because I don't think this is gonna... I feel like this is either gonna be like really, really impactful, like in mid-fight brawls, but or I don't know. I generally don't like long cooldowns with just like think Lamp, think Suzu. I don't like long cooldowns because they tend to be weird to balance. You know what I'm saying?
You poke and push objectives on the map. When RAMATTRA needs to get up close,
I don't know,
and personal, he can enter his Nemesis form, which grants bonus armor and changes some of his abilities. When in Nemesis form, RAMATTRA uses his massive tank arms to pummel as his primary fire. This is a forward punch that creates a wave of energy with every swing. The shockwave from this punch deals piercing damage that goes through shields and can hit multiple enemies in a row. The secondary ability, piercing bonus armor and changes some of his abilities. When in Nemesis form,
how much HP does Roadhog have? 700? 1.
RAMATTRA uses his massive tank arms to pummel as his primary fire.
8, 9.
This is a forward punch
11, 12.
that creates
70 divided by 12. It's going to be about 60 damage per punch.
a wave of energy with every swing. The shockwave from this punch deals piercing damage that goes...
Be also curious how easy it is to aim that. I mean, imagine the hitbox is probably pretty forgiving.
Goes through shields and can hit multiple enemies in a row. The secondary ability in Nemesis form blocks and significantly reduces damage taken from the front, but reduces his movement speed. That's
a significant damage reduction. That's like 80%.
Reduces damage taken from the front.
That's probably like an 80% damage reduction right there. Maybe... It's hard to say with, like, I don't know how it's calculated with armor, but it's at least a 60% damage reduction.
But reduces his movement speed. This can also expose Ramattra's back and make him vulnerable to attacks from behind. Regardless of which form he's in, Ramattra can use his Ravenous Vortex. He projects a ball of nanites onto the ground, spreading a damaging field that slows enemies caught in its vicinity and also pulls enemies downwards.
That's a pretty rough slow.
For his ultimate ability, Ramattra
We don't know how much damage it does, though.
in its vicinity.
I would expect this ability probably does a total of close to 100 damage, probably, would be my guess. Total. Probably feels like, I would say, less damage than Sojourn E, considering it's more
Ramattra
forgiving.
can use his Ravenous
The
Vortex.
slow is pretty nasty, though.
He projects
Look
a
at that. This is not slowed down.
ball of nanites onto the ground, spreading
That is not slowed down. I would guess about 100. That would be my guess. Over 4 seconds.
a damaging field that slows enemies caught in its vicinity and also pulls enemies downwards.
It does 30 DPS. Nice! We guessed it almost exactly. The wiki here. Damage is 60 for the punch, so we guessed that one correctly. The damage reduction for the block was 75% with a 50% movement penalty, so we guessed that one correctly. The Ravenous Vortex is... Oh, it's only 10 damage per second. Oh, so it's very, very little. So it's only 30 damage total. Total. Okay. The movement speed is 33% penalty. There's nothing on this M1 though. Where is this M1? Am I missing it? Okay, yeah, there it is. 25 per second. There's nothing that really tells us how much damage it does though. We don't know about the M1 yet. We don't know about the M1 yet. We also don't know how much damage the ultimate does either. Yet. We know what headshots, yeah.
For his ultimate ability, Ramattra automatically enters Nemesis form and unleashes Annihilation, a wide energy swarm that lashes out towards any enemies in range, dealing constant damage. Wide energy automatically enters Nemesis form and unleashes Annihilation, a wide energy swarm that lashes out towards any...
Okay, it took Tracer about 4 seconds to die, so we would expect this to be about 30 DPS. 35 DPS maybe, something like that. 30 to 40 DPS, probably I would guess closer to 40 DPS. So you're thinking a little bit less than a Moira right click, okay? I believe Moira, what is the DPS for Moira right click, y'all? 55, something like that? 50 DPS, 55 DPS? What is Moira right click? Somebody tell me. It's less than Moira right click.
any enemies in range, dealing constant damage.
Because it took about 5 seconds or so to kill the Kiriko. It lingers as long as you're near him. If you are near him, you will continually take damage. If you move out of the circle, then it breaks immediately.
While enemies are in range of the energy swarm, its timer will pause, keeping the swarm and Ramattra's Nemesis form active. Ramatra as a tempo tank is all about playing around the cooldown of Nemesis form.
So we also know that that reduces the damage to the people inside the thing by what, 50%?
You want to use the primary fire on Omnic form to soften up your opponents.
And being able to punch while you're in it is also crazy. Moira right click is 50 DPS, so it looks like it does less damage than a Moira right click. It's a continual, think of it just like a Moira right click. If she can reach you, she's doing damage to you. If she can't reach you, she's not doing damage to you. That's the same thing with that ultimate. If you're within the circle, you're taking about 40 DPS. If you're not within the circle, you're not taking 40 DPS. It doesn't reduce damage. Wait, what? Oh. They removed that? That was the most interesting part of the ultimate. Is that all? Is that it? Then what does it do? Is it literally just an AoE damage source? If so, with all due respect, that is super lame. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that sucks. That sucks. And I don't necessarily mean in terms of like power. Maybe it's still, I'm sure it's still relatively useful, but actually that ult probably sucks. Actually, timeout, y'all. This ult sucks. Just straight up damage. So the reason why I don't like this ultimate is, okay, it's okay to have, not everything needs to have an S tier ultimate. If the ultimate isn't super strong because the rest of his kit is strong, I'm okay with that. I really am truly okay with that. I mean, look at heroes like Tracer. They function fine with a non-S tier ultimate. It's a skill shot, it's fine. The reason why I don't like this ultimate is, I just seems so like lame. You know what I'm saying? It's just skillless, and it's like not super thoughtful, and it's lame. It's boring. I mean, I definitely see that there might be nuance about like stalling with it, and you have permanent nemesis form as long as you're able to keep it active. I get that. I'm not saying that like this ultimate is useless. I'm not saying that, obviously. It's an ultimate. It's still use for it. It's still value, but it's boring. The whole point, that the reason why I think this ultimate was interesting, at least, was the damage reduction. That meant that you would have to like, I mean, it was broken, it was certainly broken with the amount of damage reduction it provided, but there was like, I don't know, man. This is, thank you for the sub, by the way. I thank you, both of you guys. I appreciate it. But I don't know. I don't like it. I don't know. Removing the damage reduction definitely makes it not as like less broken, but it just also removes so much of the nuance and interesting things about it. This is gonna take a lot of fixing. I don't know. That's what made it interesting, right? I get that it was broken. You're gonna need to tune it. The 50% damage reduction was probably way broken, but man, just an AoE damage source that sucks on you for 40. Oh man, boring. I am a self-admitted not a game designer. Okay, please don't take my ideas. I think a lot of these streamers out there, not naming any names, think that they have the solution, the key to Overwatch balance, and that the developers should listen to them 24/7. I'm just a stupid critic, like everybody else, sadly. But I will say with full honesty that I don't think this is a good design of an ultimate. I don't think a generic AoE damage source, I don't think is interesting enough. And the fact that it lasts infinitely as long as there's a target within it, that's interesting, but that's not enough to make it interesting for me. I don't think that's interesting enough to me. That seems very boring and non-nuanced. I also think that similar level of logic, to a lesser extent maybe, applies with his barrier. I don't like the fact that the barrier is so very strong and has so much HP and such a low cooldown. I would prefer a shorter cooldown with a much shorter HP of the shield. Like similar to how Sigma shield functions, but not quite as egregious. Like I said, 8-second cooldown, 250 HP shield, or 300 HP shield. Balance from there. I would like to see that. I also think that the number one, here's a weird thing, chat. I think obviously his punch looks pretty broken, right? Like that looks pretty strong. But I'm actually a little bit curious. The thing that looks, the most surprising thing, that's the way I want to say it. The most surprising thing for me is how powerful his M1 looks. His M1 looks easily 25-30% more powerful than I thought it would, because it was going to be. I thought because it had infinite range and because it was going to headshot, that it would be closer. I mean, the DPS of this looks really, really, really quite strong. I mean, remember, like, look at this, like body shots, right?
This ability has slow travel time, but no damage fall off. It's great as a poking tool, plus it does increase.
The fact that it headshots makes me feel so broken aspects of the thing. I definitely think his M1 is broken, and probably his pummel is probably too strong. Disappointing aspects of his kit, the shield duration and strength and cooldown, I just don't find that very interesting. I find that kind of boring and lame and just not very dynamic. His ultimate, also boring, lame, not very dynamic. I'm disappointed with those two things. His E, I don't know. That seems surprisingly the least what is the term I'm looking for? It's the least inflammatory thing that I've seen. It's interesting. It doesn't seem too wildly broken. It's going to be hard kind of to say. Maybe the slow is a little bit too strong. The 33% maybe is a little bit too strong. Maybe like a 25%. But the DPS doing a total of 30 damage, right? And the pull down effect is interesting. So, I wish they made him have 2 different health pools in each form. I mean, isn't that what they did? 450 and then 600? You mean like 2 legitimately different health pools? Because that might be broken. The block is whatever. I'm curious. I assume he could be CC during the block, so that's good to know. Yeah, I don't know. So some parts seem OP. The M1, the pummel definitely looks really strong. The shield and ultimate are mostly disappointing, to be honest with you guys. For different ways. I think the shield is lack of dynamic, but might still be strong. The ultimate might even be okay, but it just, even if the ultimate is strong, that I'm missing something about its ability to brawl, I just think it's so disappointing. And I think it also limits RAMATTRA's role as well. Like, it proves so much dynamics. I think what we'll probably see with RAMATTRA is, I don't know. We talked about the dynamics of Overwatch 2 hero design. I don't think RAMATTRA is going to be the best brawl tank compared with Reinhardt. I think Reinhardt will just beat the living crap out of him. Even though he can pierce through shields, I think. Well, it depends on fire rate. Maybe RAMATTRA will do okay. But I think RAMATTRA's 60 damage will be healable, and Rein's hammer will be harder to heal. That being said, his M1 is very interesting to me. Depending on how easy it is to land, that could mean we have an actually second relevant poke tank besides Sigma. So dynamics, right? A lot like Orissa's redesign. But I'm as I said the other day, I am not sure where he stands in terms of the meta. Or I think definitely either we're going to see him as function as a raw spam tank, or he is going to be utilized in speed as part of a brawl composition or a hybrid brawl. This is not a dive hero whatsoever. This will not. I don't see this hero being utilized in dive much at all. I think the shield loses a mass amount of efficiency and efficacy versus dive. His ultimate will be very bad versus dive. His E will be very bad versus dive. His block will be very bad versus dive. His punch might be useful. I think he would have more flexibility versus dive if he had had a damage reduction on his ultimate, and if his shield was on a lower cooldown. They're not, so I don't see him being used in mobile compositions as much. Hybrid poke brawl, I can see that being very much the case. I mean, it makes sense, obviously, right? Forest for trees, that's what he does. But I'm actually curious to see how it actually translates out. I don't know. I'm not super excited about the hero, to be honest with you. I think he will be fun to play because he's a new hero, but too many of his ultimate seems dull. I don't know. I'm very disappointed about that shield. I'm very disappointed about that shield and the ultimate, to be honest with you.